Many black people in the United States have given up on getting slavery and land reparations, and that's precisely what every United States government has always wanted. However, you will be surprised to know that those black people who did not give up and collectively reached the Supreme Court got billions of dollars in reparations. Back in 1999, in the case of Pigford versus Glickman, the Supreme Court ordered the U.S. government to pay $1 billion to thousands of black farmers. Interestingly, those black farmers who were not covered later sued again and got an additional $1.25 billion in reparations. Again, in 2010, in the case Cobell versus Salazar, the Supreme Court ordered the U.S. government to pay $3.4 billion to the affected black people and Native American tribes. The point is, even though the United States does not want to pay reparation to every black person in the United States, it does pay slavery reparation to those who fight for it. So how can you get slavery and land reparations through the U.S. Supreme Court, like thousands of black people who have already got it? That's something the United States governments do not want you to know. Let's get started.
The Black History Archives.
In the United States, the conversation about reparations for black Americans has long been a contentious and emotionally charged issue. Despite increasing awareness and advocacy for reparations, many black people have lost hope in ever receiving compensation for the centuries of slavery, systemic racism, and discrimination that have plagued their community. This disillusionment stems from a belief that reparations will be granted without any struggle. However, history shows that meaningful change rarely comes without a fight, especially when the entire system resists acknowledging and rectifying past wrongs. A significant portion of the black community has become skeptical about the likelihood of receiving reparations. This skepticism partly arises from the misconception that reparations should be granted automatically as a moral and historical imperative. However, this expectation overlooks the reality that those in power, many of whom benefit from the status quo, are unlikely to voluntarily dismantle the structures that sustain their privilege. Consider the example of the reparations granted to Japanese Americans who were interned during World War II. This illustrates a key point. Reparations were not handed to them without a prolonged and arduous struggle. The Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which provided a formal apology and financial compensation to Japanese Americans, came after decades of persistent advocacy, legal battles, and public awareness campaigns. This hard-fought victory underscores the necessity of sustained collective action in achieving justice. The resistance to paying reparations for slavery and systemic racism is deeply entrenched in American society. Many politicians and segments of the population hold the belief that America was established primarily for the benefit of white people, which perpetuates a reluctance to confront and rectify historical injustices against black people. This ideological barrier makes it unlikely that reparations will be granted without significant pressure from the affected communities. That's when black people should consider the second option, which is to make the United States pay slavery reparations. Instead of simply demanding slavery reparations on various platforms and not getting any results, black people in either the whole United States or in every state should unite. They should bring a class action lawsuit against the United States government, taking it to the Supreme Court and making it liable to pay slavery reparations. It's unlike the first method where only demands are projected. It's the way to literally make the United States pay the slavery reparations, using the legal bases that seem to protect everyone's rights. For black Americans to secure reparations for slavery, they need to unite across every state and file a class action lawsuit. This legal strategy would force the U.S. government to pay reparations, as the courts would mandate it. Unlike previous efforts where demands for reparations could be easily ignored by the government, a unified legal action can't be dismissed. The U.S. Constitution guarantees the protection of every citizen's rights, and this must be upheld. However, unity among black Americans is essential. It's the only viable path to obtaining reparations. They must fight for it, rather than wait for compensation to be handed out. However, Uniting is the only effort required. Once united, it will become hard for the government to ignore, especially when the government loses legitimacy. To achieve reparations, Black Americans need to form a unified front across all states. This means organizing and mobilizing communities to join a collective legal action. A class action lawsuit is a powerful tool for addressing widespread harm, allowing a large group of people to collectively sue the U.S. government for reparations due to slavery and systemic racism. Here's a reminder to please support us so we can make more videos for you by subscribing to our channel and giving the video a like. We want to build a strong community, and we need your support. Let's continue now. One of the biggest legal bases is the 40 acres and a mule policy that was never followed but was promised to Black people. The Supreme Court can be asked to get this policy implemented, which will resolve all problems. If you don't know the power of a class action lawsuit, just understand that it can even make the president resign. This approach consolidates the claims of many individuals into a single, powerful case. This unity amplifies the voices of Black Americans, making it harder for the government to ignore their demands. Unlike petitions or advocacy efforts that can be brushed aside, a court ruling in favor of the plaintiffs would legally mandate the government to provide reparations. The judiciary, as an independent branch of government, has the authority to enforce such a ruling, making it binding and actionable. Historical precedents demonstrate the power of legal action in securing justice. For example, the civil rights movement saw significant victories through the courts, such as the landmark Brown versus Board of Education case, which ended racial segregation in public schools. A single case changed everything forever. But how things should be done if the legal method is to be adopted? To begin the journey towards reparations, Black Americans must unite on a national scale. This requires creating a cohesive coalition through grassroots movements, leveraging established civil rights organizations, and mobilizing communities to support the reparations cause. Central to this effort is establishing strong leadership capable of articulating the goals of the reparations movement, collaborating with legal experts, and rallying diverse segments of society behind the initiative. Educating the broader Black community about the significance of reparations, providing historical context, and clarifying the legal pathway are crucial. This involves hosting community gatherings, town hall meetings, and educational workshops to build awareness and garner widespread participation. Then, the class action lawsuit will be initiated. It's pivotal to engage top-tier legal teams specializing in class action lawsuits. These firms bring extensive experience in handling complex litigation and have the resources needed for sustained legal battles. Class action lawsuits are particularly appealing to lawyers due to the potential for substantial compensation contingent upon successful litigation. Working closely with legal experts is essential for crafting a comprehensive legal strategy. This strategy should outline the constitutional basis for reparations, present historical evidence of the profound harm caused by slavery and systemic racism, and argue for the U.S. government's responsibility to address these injustices. Finding and recruiting representative plaintiffs who reflect the diverse experiences of those impacted by slavery is crucial. These plaintiffs serve as the public face of the lawsuit, lending credibility and resonance to the collective grievance. Then, the court should be chosen. The decision to file the lawsuit in federal or state courts hinges on strategic considerations. Federal courts offer broader jurisdiction and visibility, which is advantageous for seeking a landmark Supreme Court decision. State courts may offer tactical benefits depending on local legal frameworks and precedents. But is it possible to sue and win such a historic case? Well, the answer is yes. One of the biggest hurdles in filing lawsuits for historical events, like seeking reparations for slavery, is the argument that the statute of limitations has long expired. In other words, people are coming for their rights too late. However, Section 32(1)(b) of the Limitation Act provides an exception. This provision allows claimants to sue even after the usual limitation period has expired if they can prove that the defendant deliberately concealed a relevant fact. In practical terms, this means that a defendant cannot defend themselves by arguing that the claimant took too long to sue if the defendant had deliberately hidden information that would have enabled the lawsuit. The U.S. government has been hiding things since the end of slavery, even ending the very hope that reparation can be paid. Recent developments in the context of reparations for slavery have uncovered previously hidden facts that could support new claims. For example, in 2021, documents revealing the Bank of England's ownership of slave plantations in Grenada were discovered. These documents included an inventory from 1788 listing 599 enslaved individuals just before the bank took full control of the plantations. Similarly, research by the Church of England's Church Commissioners has unveiled previously concealed information about the Church's financial gains from the transatlantic slave trade. These revelations highlight that new, relevant facts are still coming to light, which could strengthen claims for reparations. The Supreme Court's clarification on the application of Section 32(1)(b) could be beneficial to those seeking reparations. The court had to interpret what it means for a defendant to deliberately conceal relevant facts from someone intending to sue over historical events. Previously, it was mistakenly believed that the claimant had to show the defendant breached a legal, social, or moral duty in concealing the fact. The Supreme Court has now clarified that there is no need to prove such a duty. Moreover, the court ruled that a claimant does not need to demonstrate that the defendant knew the concealed fact was relevant to the right to sue or was reckless about its significance. It is enough that the defendant intentionally ensured the claimant remained unaware of the facts, thus preventing them from suing within the ordinary time limit. These legal clarifications pave the way for individuals seeking reparations for historical injustices, offering a clearer path to pursue their claims despite the passage of time. Tell us honestly what you think about the United States not paying slavery reparations. Isn't it true that black people should unite and bring a class action lawsuit to make the U.S. government pay for slavery and land reparation? In the comment section right below, share your thoughts on whether you would like to fight the legal battle to get your share in reparations. Would you like us to make more videos? If yes, please support us by subscribing to the Black History Archives and clicking the bell icon. You can check out more videos on our channel too.